Hi, now I want to start section 3.5, Math 60, chapter 3. We asked for use a slope-intercept form to graph the equation. What is a slope-intercept form equations? Y equal mx plus b. This is a slope-intercept form. M is slope and b is the y-intercept, okay? So if there is an equation that they give you slope and y-intercept, let's say this is your equations, right? I mean, this is your line, the red ones, and intercept the y-axis, this is y-axis. Intercept the y-axis at this point where my straight line intersect the vertical line or the y-axis, they call this y-intercept. This has a point. This coordinates of these points, for instance, in this example, is there is no x, but y is 2. So that's where the b is. B is y-intercept. This b is your y-intercept. And this is a slope. You have to give you slope in the problems. Okay, so they call it slope-intercept. Slope-intercept form. So if we give you b, which is this point, the y-intercept, and the slope, you could use this equation. All right, so now here, in this example, use the graph for a slope-intercept form. So what is a slope? A slope here. It's -4, and y-intercept is -2. So the graph hit y-intercept at this point. This is the y-intercept. Okay, and then you're going to build a slope 4 to 1. Remember, when a slope is negative, you always have these directions. When a slope is positive, you always have these directions. Okay, so from this point, you need to build the slope. This is rise over run. Okay, so it's like you have 4 here and 1 here. So this, the line should be like this, going these directions. Okay, so that's what you see here. You find your intercept, and then you go 4 and 1. Okay. Now, if you want to really verify your graph to see it's correct or not, although they ask you to use slope and y-intercept, if you want to check to make sure your graph is correct or not, you know how we always use 2 or 3 points here. Let's say x is 0. When you put 0 here, this is gone, so y is -2, which is your y-intercept. And then through another one x here, 1. 1 times -4 is -4, and -2 is -6. You know, you could do it this way too. 0 and -2 is this point, and then find that point. X is 1 and y is -6. X is 1 and y is -6. See, that gives you this point. And then you could connect it and draw your line. So this is one more time. Sorry, I'll put it pretty quick. What's the equation on this one? 2x plus y equal to 2. They're saying use the slope and y-intercept when drawing the lines. Okay, so we have to write it. We have to write it in this form. Means I should try to have y by itself. So it would be y equal negative 2x plus 2. See, when you write it like that, then you could tell that a slope is negative 2 or negative 2, 1. And y-intercept, where intercept is 2. B equal 2 is y-intercept, right? So that one was this point here. Point 2, y-intercept. Now you could, if you want to do it this way, remember when the slope is negative, the direction is always like this when the slope is negative. And then you want to go 2 to 1. So from here, you know, horizontal is 1, and then you go up 2. So it's like you go 1, and then you go up 2. That's what 2 to 1 means. This is horizontal, right? And then so in that case, or you could just use the 2 points to do it, you know, to do it that way. Rise over on. Okay, so you go 2, 1. Or to be sure your graph is correct or not, you could just, when you have it like that, you could just say, okay, x is 0, y is 2. X is 1, you put a 1 here, y is 0. Where is this point, 1 and 0? X is 1 and y is 0 is right here. And the other one's right there. Okay, so again, when they ask you to use a slope and y-intercept, means you get it write it in this form first. And then, you know, you go rise and rise. But, you know, when it comes to graphing, you could use this and come up with a graph anyway. I mean, but this is what they're asking you. Okay. Now on this one, they say, okay, we give you this point. This is a y-intercept and this is your slope. So they are giving us a slope. A slope is 6, and they say y-intercept is minus 6 over 7. Use a slope-intercept form. Use slope-intercept form, right? So slope-intercept form is this: y equal mx plus b. M is 6, b is minus 6 over 7. See, you could find your equations. Now I'm sorry, I shouldn't keep showing this. The next problem is this: they are saying that, okay, find the equation of the line that giving you a slope, and instead of y-intercept, they give you the coordinates of 1 point. So they're saying that in this problem, they're saying a slope is given, is 5, but they give you coordinates of 1 point, 9 and 5. They didn't give us the y-intercept. You know, you could just still use the formula. You could just say, okay, the formula is y equal mx plus b. In fact, let me do this in the separate paper for you, so I'll show you 2 different ways of doing these problems, okay? So given a slope is 5 and 1 point is this. Okay, let me show you 2 ways to do it. All right, so we write a slope intercept form. This is x and this is y, right? You take this and substitute here. 5 equal 5 times 9 plus b. You have the m, x, and y. So the only unknown here is b. The value of b is equal to minus 40. So how do I write the equations? Y equal mx plus b, again, I write it, is 5x minus 40. Okay, now, there is another equation. This equation, they call, let me write it down first. They call it point slope form. There are 2 equations. One was the one we just explained, mx plus b. This is the second one, okay? And sometimes, instead of doing it like that, I use this equation, which is the same thing. I put this y1 on that side. So I normally change that equation and write it like this. It's easier for myself. Now, this is in case you have slope and coordinates of 1 point, okay? Then we use this equation. Like in this problem, they are saying that a slope is 5 and 1 point is 9 and 5. This 9 and 5 point given in the problem is your x1 and y1. So what I do is I take all these and plug into this equation. So y is 5 x minus. Now, when you want to use this equation, make sure you don't substitute the number for x and y. You shouldn't touch these two. Just x1 and y1 is the point given in the problems. Okay, so it's important to understand that. When you use this equation, do not substitute any number for x and y. This point, x1 and y1, you plug it into this formula, right? So x minus 9 plus 5. Now, when I simplify this, would be when I distribute this, then I have y equal 5x minus 4. You get the same equations. Okay, so I use 2 separate equations to do the problems. When we give you coordinates of 1 point and a slope, it's easier to use these equations. You don't have to, but it's easier because you just take the point and plug it in here. Or if we ask you specify to use a slope intercept form, which we don't normally, we just ask you to find the equation. Then you could do it this way. You could just take these now, take it as an x and y here, because there is no x1, y1 in this equation. You see that? So you take these 2 numbers, put it here, put a 5, find a b, and then put it back into equation. So there are 2 ways to do it. So make sure you understand these 2 methods that we normally use to solve all the equations. All right. Now, sometimes we give you 2 points. Given is 2 points of a equation, and we ask you to find, like these 2 points are given. Look. All right. So let's call one of the point x1, y1, and the second one x2, y2. So you need to have a slope. Anytime you want to find the equation of a straight line, you need the slope. What's the formula for slope? A slope is difference of the y divided by difference of the x. So all you need to do is take all these numbers and plug in, but make sure you understand there is a negative between. So what is y2? Negative 2. Put the minus first, and then look for y1, negative 3. X sub 2 is negative 12. Put the negative sign first, don't forget this first, and then look for x1. See, too many negative signs here, so be very, very careful, because if you make a mistake on one of these signs, then you come up with the wrong answers. Negative 2 plus 3, negative 12 plus 8, so you have 1 over negative 4. That's the slope. And this is the equation of slope, how to find the slope. Now I can use equation of y equal m times x minus x1, see, plus y1. Remember, this equation just need coordinates of 1 point and a slope. You just need these two. I have a slope, and I have the point x1 and y1 here. Okay, so what I have is, my slope is minus 1/4, and x1 and y1, I have minus 8 and minus 3. These are all given. So I take all this and plug into the formula. So the formula is y equal minus 1/4 times x minus x1 is minus 8 plus y1, which is negative 3, I distribute this. Negative 1/4 times 8. You know, some people still have a difficulty to understand this part. How do I come minus 4 times 8? I'll do it here for you, look. Minus 4 is coming and multiplied by 8 over 1. See that? Is what? Minus 8 over 4 or minus 2. So minus 1/4 times 8 is minus 2, and then minus 3. So I have minus 1/4 of x minus 5, and this is your y. So when we give you coordinates of 2 points, there are 2 steps. However, I created a formula. I may not see it in the book, but you could come up with that formula. And we use it when you have coordinates of 2 points. And if somebody asks you, where did you get the formula? That's how it works. Look, we know this one, right? We know y minus y1 is m times x. Or if I divide both sides by x minus x1, then you get this. This is a formula, right? Here, if I divide both sides by x minus x1, look, if I divide both sides by x minus x1, I got this one. Now, we also know a slope from the previous page. Slope we know is this, right? So if you cross multiply and do all this, you come up with this equation. You could use these equations if you have 2 points. If we give you coordinates of 2 points in the problem, you could just use this equation directly. You don't have to calculate the slope first, and then you could just use this equation if you have coordinates of 2 points. See? All I do is just take these 2 points. One is x1, y1. The second, I call it x2, y2, and plug it into that formula. That's another way to do it. Rather than finding a slope and go to one of the equations. See, that gives you the same equations. And please remember, when you go through these lecture notes, if you have any questions, always you could call me or, send me an email, and I can arrange a Zoom meeting with you, and I'll go over this and explain to you. Like this problem, look. Okay? They give you a graph, and they say, okay, you have the graph, go ahead and find the equations. How do I do that? Well, on the graph, there are these 2 points. You see that? This one, what is the coordinates of this point? I see x is 2 and y is 6. So this is 1 point. I call it x1 and y1. There is another point here. This point, x is -4 and y is 2. I call that x2, y2. And so if you have 2 points of a straight line, how do you find the equation? From the formula I just gave you. Okay? I don't have to go through this. You know how to do it. You just take these numbers and plug into that. Look at these problems. They said this graph is given. Find f of 1. Remember, if you have the f of x, when we give you f of 1, means just substitute 1 for x, right? What does f of 1 means? Means when x is 1, what is the value of y? On the graph, this is x equal 1, this point. So what I do is I draw the vertical line to find my y value. See? See, remember, if you have let's say here I want to read this point, x equal 3. You go vertical line up, then this gives you the y value. They are saying find the equation of the line that goes through this point. Let's graph it first to see how it goes. Well, chapter 3 is a good idea to use graphing paper. They're saying it goes through a point of -3 and -3. This line would go through this point. Where is that point? 1, 2, -3, 1, 2, -3. Is this point is -3 and -3. And a slope is 0, so it's this line. Is a horizontal line. You know why? When they say slope is 0, think of, when you're in the gym on the treadmill, when you put it on the 0 slope, means you're on the horizontal surface, right? You're standing on the floor. Floor is horizontal surface and a slope is 0. So anytime you say a slope is 0 means it's the horizontal line, no slope. So what's the equation of this line? All it does is just the y. Y is always -3. And so the equation is y equal to -3. And the other one is, look, find the equation of the line is a vertical and goes through that point. It goes through point of 4, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. It goes through this point and is a vertical line. Vertical lines, what is the slope of vertical line? Think of when you're in the room, can you climb the wall? No. Or while you're in the treadmill, can you put the treadmill, can you increase the slope to 90 degrees? No. So a slope of vertical line is undefined. But here a slope was 0, right? Horizontal line. So all the vertical lines, their equation is x equals something. So here it would be x equal 4. Because every point lie on this line, they all have the same x. Look, x4, 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 x4. So y equal a number, whatever that number is, whether it's positive or negative, is always horizontal line. X equal a number, they all are vertical line. Like, how do I graph y equal -1? On the y-axis, find -1, and just draw the line like that. How do I graph x equal -7? Find -7 on the x-axis, and then vertical line. That's the equation of that. Okay? All right. You have also a problem like this, and find the equation of the line, write the equation using the function of state. Our line goes through this point and is perpendicular to the other line. This is a little bit different, okay? So if two lines are both parallel lines, they have the same slope. But if two lines are perpendicular lines, a slope, what one is opposite reverse of the second one, or m1, m2 is -1, means when you multiply the slope, you get -1. So let's say I have an equation here, y equal 5x plus 1. You know, a slope is always sitting next to x, so a slope is 5. I have another equation, y equal 5x minus 20. What is the slope of this one? Also 5. So when you graph these two lines, they both should have the same slope, and two lines, when you graph it, they both are parallel lines. All right, so here for the perpendicular, let's say I have an equation like this, 3/4 of x minus 7. What is the slope of this line? Now, there is another line which is perpendicular to this. There is a new line perpendicular to this line. Find the slope of that line. It has to be opposite sign and inverse this. So the new line is what? That's how to find if two lines are perpendicular. If you give you a slope of 1, that's how you find the slope of the other ones. That's another example. This line is given. What is the slope? Just write it as 2/1. There is another line which is perpendicular to this. What is the slope of the second line? -1/3. Okay? So if it's just a number, whole number, just always give a denominator of 1 so you know how to reverse it. What is the slope of this line? 2y equal 5x minus 7. Don't say it's 5. It's not correct. Anytime you want to calculate a slope, you want to make sure y is alone by itself. That means first I have to divide both sides by 2. Okay? Now, what's the slope? 5/2. And what's the slope of line which is perpendicular to this? -5/2. Okay? Minus y equal -1/3 of x plus 2. Is this slope -1/3? No, you should not have negative here, or -1, right? So you get to multiply both sides by negative to make it positive. Y always has to be positive in order to determine the slope. See, the slope is 1/3. So for parallel lines is easy, they're always equal, but for perpendicular, this is how to do it, to find the second one, okay? Now let's go back to this problem here. Find the equation of the line that goes through this point, but is perpendicular to this one. 9y, it's x minus 18. What's the slope of this? It's not 1 because there's a 9 here. So I divide by 9 first. So y is 1/9x minus 2. Okay? So a slope of this line is 1/9. But there is a line that is perpendicular to this. And we want to find equation of that line. So what is the slope of that line which is perpendicular to this? M2 is -9. Now the problem is this. There is a line that has a slope of -9 and goes through this point. Find that line. How do I find that? All right, so remember formula that this one is x1, y1, and you have a slope, so y is m times x minus x1 plus y1. Y is minus 9 times x minus 2 plus negative is negative 4 minus 9x plus 18 minus 4. See, that is the equations. So two things you need to remember in this problem. First, to find the slope of the original equation, you get it divided because y always has to be positive 1 and sitting by itself on one side. You read the slope, and then to find the second equation, which is perpendicular to this, a slope is opposite sign and reverse, which is not negative 9. So you take that, you take the point, and then you use the equations. So that would be end of this sections.